My ex-wife ditched me, and our kids to live with her heir partner states away, leaving me to be a single father. Now I've fallen in love with her sister over these past couple of years, and I don't know what to do. My tumultuous journey began when I met my ex-wife, her sister, at the tender age of 23. Our relationship was a whirlwind romance that quickly led to marriage and the blessing of 2 beautiful children by the time I was 26. However, the facade of marital bliss shattered mere months after our wedding when I discovered her devastating betrayal. Not only had she engaged in an affair, but her paramour had dragged her into the dark depths of heroin addiction. When confronted with her infidelity and substance abuse, she made hollow promises of seeking help. Instead, she vanished into the night like a ghost, leaving behind shattered hearts and broken dreams. For years have passed without a word, though whispers suggest she's still entangled with that same man, both of them lost to the streets of Las Vegas. While I can't verify these rumors, I've been too focused on holding our family together to chase shadows of the past. Despite this bitter betrayal, I've maintained an unexpectedly warm relationship with my in-laws. They've become a pillar of support, with my children spending alternate weekends at their grandparents' home. They still embrace me as their son, including me in Christmas celebrations and family gatherings. My ex-wife has become an unspoken ghost, her name carefully avoided to protect the children's fragile hearts. The deepest wounds are carried by my son, now 9, who required therapeutic intervention after expressing chilling wishes for his mother's death. Her verbal abuse in her final days, when he was barely 5 or 6, left invisible scars that were still working to heal. In the aftermath of my ex-wife's departure, her sister and her boyfriend became frequent visitors, bringing light into our darkened home. They would often volunteer to watch the kids, playfully calling it practice for their own future family. Their presence was like a balm to our wounded spirits, showering the children with the love and attention they so desperately craved. I welcomed their generosity, knowing we all needed to remember what happiness felt like. Their love story seemed perfect. They married and were blissfully happy. But fate had other plans. In a cruel twist of destiny, her husband was tragically taken from us in a workplace accident shortly after their daughter's birth. The loss cast a long shadow over all our lives, leaving behind a grief so profound it seemed to have physical weight. Following her example of kindness from years before, I began taking her daughter under my wing, offering her moments of solitude when the weight of loss became too heavy to bear. Though she's been attending grief counseling for years, her wedding ring remains a constant presence, a symbol of a love she once declared impossible to replace. Our conversations often drift to memories of her late husband, and while time has softened the sharp edges of her pain, her heart still holds his memory with fierce devotion. Over the past 2 years, our lives have become increasingly intertwined, like 2 melodies gradually harmonizing into a single song. She graces our dinner table several times a week, her presence filling our home with warmth and laughter. Our daughters have formed an unbreakable bond, their giggles and whispered secrets echoing through the halls during their frequent sleepovers. While I've long since made peace with my ex-wife's betrayal, the specter of her actions has kept me from pursuing new relationships. The thought of introducing another, potentially destructive presence into my children's lives paralyzes me with fear. Yet somehow, without my noticing, my heart began to beat a different rhythm whenever she was near. I can't pinpoint the exact moment when my feelings for her transformed from familial affection into something deeper, more profound. Her grace in motherhood, despite her own crushing grief, moves me beyond words. Her gentle spirit and infectious laughter have become the highlights of my days. Even more dangerous, I've found myself noticing the subtle beauty in her movements, the way her eyes catch the light, the soft curve of her smile. The guilt of these feelings weighs heavily on my conscience. Her late husband was not just my friend, but a man of remarkable character. And she's still wrapped in the cocoon of her grief, her wedding ring a constant reminder of a love story cut tragically short. I've kept these feelings locked away, a secret burning in my chest. Since the pandemic began, our bubble has grown smaller, pushing us even closer together. Nothing romantic has ever been acknowledged between us, though I catch myself walking the dangerous line between friendly affection and something more. Last week, after the children had drifted off to sleep, we shared a few drinks, nothing excessive, and she decided to stay the night. I took my place on the couch, my thoughts a whirlwind of unspoken desires. The next morning, I awoke to a scene that felt plucked from my deepest dreams, the aroma of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon drawing me to the kitchen where she moved with graceful familiarity through our space. The morning light caught in her hair as she hummed softly. Our 3 children gathered around the table in their pajamas, a picture of domestic bliss that made my heart ache with longing. In a moment of unguarded tenderness, she pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead, an innocent gesture that sent electricity coursing through my veins. After she left, I found my son alone in his room, his usual energetic presence subdued as he absently played with his toys. The shadow in his eyes prompted me to kneel beside him, asking what troubled his young heart. His response, delivered with the devastating honesty only a child can muster, struck me like a thunderbolt. "I wish Auntie was my mom." My heart simultaneously soared and broke as he shared his reasons, each word adding weight to the feelings I'd been struggling to contain. She drew pictures with him, a detail I hadn't known, a precious secret between them. She never raised her voice, her patience a stark contrast to the memories of his mother's anger. Her presence at his grandparents' house was a source of joy rather than anxiety. As he spoke, I could see the love for her blooming in his innocent heart, mirroring my own growing feelings. Later, when dropping the children at their grandparents' house, I attempted to gauge their reaction with a light-hearted comment about how their daughter and I sometimes resembled a married couple. The sudden chill in their response, though masked with politeness, spoke volumes. Their distant demeanor left me wondering if they harbored suspicions or disapproval of the unspoken attraction between us. Update, 2 days later. The universe, it seems, has a way of creating perfect moments from ordinary circumstances. After posting my initial confession, a realization struck me like lightning. Our children would be spending Sunday night at their grandparents' house, as they often did. My niece, my sister-in-law's daughter, would join them for these bi-weekly visits, a tradition we maintained to nurture their bonds with their maternal grandparents. My heart thundering in my chest, I seized this rare opportunity for an evening alone with her. Instead of my usual routine of gaming or extra gym time, I took a leap of faith. My fingers trembled slightly as I typed out what felt like the most important text message of my life. "Hey, kids are out this Sunday. Would you like to have dinner?" I suggested an upscale restaurant that had recently reopened for outdoor dining, my pulse quickening as I waited for her response. Her enthusiastic acceptance sent waves of both joy and panic through me. The reality of actually acting on my feelings suddenly loomed large. When she asked about arrangements, I suggested meeting at my place first, my mind already racing with possibilities. She agreed, and the countdown to Sunday began. The evening arrived, and I found myself fussing over my appearance more than I had in years, aiming for that delicate balance between casual and refined. But nothing could have prepared me for the vision that appeared at my door. She stood there in an elegant evening dress, her beauty enhanced by carefully applied makeup, a sight that literally took my breath away. I must have stood there slack-jawed for a moment, drinking in the sight of her. Dinner was magical, the live jazz creating an intimate atmosphere that seemed to exist just for us. She confessed it was her first adult social outing without her daughter in years, a revelation that matched my own experience. We laughed, shared stories, and found ourselves drawn into casual touches that sent electricity through my skin. Yet still, I couldn't find the courage to voice the feelings that were threatening to burst from my chest. As we prepared to leave, something in me snapped. The thought of letting this perfect evening end without expressing my feelings became unbearable. I offered her my arm for the walk back to the car, our bodies moving in perfect synchronization. But as I opened her car door, she stopped me, her eyes shining with a mixture of nervousness and determination. "Wait," she whispered. "I want to kiss you." The world seemed to stop spinning as I pulled her close. Our first kiss was everything I had dreamed of and more, tender, passionate, and filled with years of unspoken longing. We lost ourselves against my car outside the restaurant, the kisses stretching into an eternity of bliss. When we finally separated, the dreamy looks we shared said more than words ever could. The drive back to my place was electric, our fingers intertwined as I steered with one hand, neither of us willing to break the physical connection we'd finally established. Despite the magnetic pull between us, we made a conscious decision to resist the urge to rush things physically. Instead, we settled onto the couch, our bodies naturally finding ways to fit together as we finally gave voice to the feelings we'd kept hidden for so long. I confessed how my heart had begun to yearn for her years ago, but my fear of destroying our delicate balance and respect for her grief had kept me silent. She responded with a revelation that sent warmth flooding through my chest. During the period when I'd attempted online dating, she'd found herself consumed by jealousy, her heart burning at the thought of me with other women. That's when she realized her feelings had transformed into something deeper than family ties. Our conversation delved into the complexities of our situation, tears flowing freely as we addressed the ghosts that haunted us both. She spoke of her late husband with love and reverence, and I listened with a heart full of understanding and respect. I assured her that I would wait eternally if that's what she needed, but she surprised me by saying she had already worked through much of her guilt about loving again during her grief counseling sessions. The elephant in the room, her sister, my ex-wife, couldn't be ignored. We confronted the possibility of her return, reformed and seeking reconciliation. My response was immediate and firm. While I hoped for her recovery, the damage she had inflicted on our son was unforgivable. The sunny, joyful child he had been was forever changed by her verbal abuse and abandonment. Though he's healing now, those scars run deep. She shared her own fears, admitting she worried I might see echoes of her sister in her face, that those similarities might one day breed resentment. I pulled her closer, explaining that while they might share DNA, their souls could not be more different. Where her sister had brought chaos and pain, she had brought healing and joy. Her presence had restored light to our lives when we needed it most. Second update, 1 week later. The weight of our secret had become both sweet and burdensome, like honey crystallizing in the jar. We knew it was time to share our happiness with those closest to us, though anxiety churned in our stomachs at the prospect. We decided to begin with my parents, who had met Sylvia several times but knew her only as a peripheral figure in our family drama. The revelation to my parents unfolded like a gentle spring breeze, rather than the storm we'd feared. My father, ever the stoic, maintained his usual inscrutability, but my mother's eyes lit up with understanding and warmth. Her only question, "Does Jessica know?" hung in the air like morning mist. We explained the years of silence between us and my ex-wife, how she had become a stranger to her own children. My mother nodded, her acceptance a balm to our nervous hearts. The real test came during a Labor Day gathering at my in-laws. My parents had graciously offered to take the children to the zoo, giving us the space we needed for this delicate conversation. Walking into that familiar house, our fingers secretly intertwined for courage, felt like stepping onto a stage before a critical audience. The moment of truth arrived like a thunderclap in a clear sky. Standing before our extended family, our joined hands speaking volumes before our words could, we announced our relationship. The reaction was a symphony of emotions. Several aunts rushed forward with tearful embraces, their joy genuine and infectious. They had watched Sylvia retreat into herself after her husband's death, and seeing her radiant with new love brought them profound happiness. Only my mother-in-law struck a discordant note in this harmony of acceptance. With a knowing look that spoke of long-held suspicions, she revealed she had noticed my puppy dog eyes following Sylvia for months, and how Sylvia's conversation inevitably turned to me. Her accusation of secrecy, though delivered with a veneer of humor, carried an undercurrent of hurt. "Starting a relationship with lies isn't wise," she cautioned, though we had only been together for a week. The aftermath brought a revelation that shook our newfound happiness. Jessica, my long-absent ex-wife, had been in contact with her parents for the past year. They had kept this secret, protecting her shame and inability to face her abandoned children. Her Facebook profile, from which I had been blocked, showed a woman transformed, clean, healthy, a far cry from the hollow-eyed stranger who had disappeared into the night 4 years ago. Sylvia's parents presented us with Jessica's phone number, their request for contact heavy with unspoken hopes of reconciliation. The fear in Sylvia's eyes mirrored my own inner turmoil. Would her sister's potential return threaten our fragile happiness? I pulled her close, my voice steady as I reaffirmed my love for her, explaining that my heart had found its true home. My feelings for her weren't just deeper than what I had felt for Jessica. They were fundamentally different, built on a foundation of trust, respect, and shared healing rather than youthful passion and impulsive decisions. Third update, 7 weeks later. The conversation with Jessica finally happened in September, a phone call that felt like opening a time capsule buried in the depths of my past. Life had been a whirlwind of joy and adjustment with Sylvia, but this necessary confrontation loomed over us like a storm cloud on the horizon. Jessica's voice, when it came through the line, was steadier than I remembered. 8 months clean had restored something of the woman I once knew. She unraveled the tangled threads of her past, explaining the affair and her descent into addiction. Though I hadn't sought these details, I listened with a strange mixture of detachment and concern. Despite the pain she had caused, a part of me still hoped for her recovery, if only for our children's sake. When I broached the subject of Sylvia and me, her initial reaction was one of stunned disbelief. In her mind, the image of her sister was forever frozen at 14, the age she had been when I first entered their lives. Her immediate implications of impropriety faded as reality sank in. Sylvia was now a grown woman, a widow, a mother. The awkward silence that followed spoke volumes about the years and experiences that separated us all. The conversation turned to our children, and Jessica's voice cracked with genuine remorse. Tears flowed freely as she acknowledged the magnitude of her abandonment. Her struggle to imagine facing them again, to see the hurt in their eyes, was palpable. I found myself in the peculiar position of wanting to offer comfort while maintaining necessary boundaries. Yes, cordial interaction might be possible someday, but I wouldn't risk my children's emotional well-being on uncertain promises. Later, Sylvia and Jessica had their own conversation, a sister-to-sister reckoning that I only partially overheard. The revelation about their brother-in-law's death struck a particularly painful chord. Jessica had been in jail for breaking and entering during that dark week, learning of his passing weeks after the funeral. Her shame at missing this crucial moment in her sister's life had kept her silent, a decision that had only deepened the rift between them. Life with Sylvia and our blended family has become a daily celebration of second chances. Our 3 children have formed bonds that transcend traditional family structures. Our daughters now proudly call each other sisters, while my son navigates his own path, calling Sylvia Auntie while treating her with all the love and respect due to a mother. The happiness we've found together sometimes feels surreal, especially after years of emotional drought. Even mundane moments, like our recent Scrabble night, fill me with a joy that catches me off guard. I find myself marveling at how complete life feels now, how the pieces have fallen into place in ways I never could have imagined. Final update, 1 year later. Time has a way of transforming the extraordinary into the beautifully ordinary. A year has passed since Sylvia and I took that leap of faith together, and our love has blossomed into something more profound than I ever dared to dream. We've created a home together, our lives intertwining like vines growing toward the sun, and are currently searching for a larger house to contain all the happiness we've found. The most remarkable transformation has been in our children. What started as 2 separate families has merged into something unique and precious. Our daughters, once cousins, now share the unshakable bond of sisters, their giggles and secrets creating a symphony of joy throughout our home. My son's journey has been particularly touching. In public, he proudly introduces Sylvia as his mom, while at home, he still calls her Auntie with a tenderness that speaks volumes about their special relationship. These seemingly contradictory titles confuse outsiders, but to us, they're perfect expressions of the complex love that binds our family together. Jessica remains on the periphery of our lives, though reports suggest she's building a stable life with a new partner and maintaining her sobriety. The possibility of her seeking visitation rights someday looms like a distant storm cloud, but we've learned to live with this uncertainty. If she continues her path of recovery and growth, we'll face that challenge with the same strength and grace that brought us this far. The fear of family disapproval has dissolved like morning mist. Her parents have embraced our relationship, and our children's weekend visits with them have become a cherished tradition, giving Sylvia and me precious time for date nights and quiet moments together. Our friends, though initially surprised by our union, have become our strongest supporters, tactfully avoiding mentions of the past while celebrating our present happiness. One unexpected blessing has been the continued support of her late husband's family. They've remained an integral part of our extended family, particularly in their granddaughter's life. Her father-in-law's words touched me deeply when he expressed relief that it was me, someone they knew and trusted, rather than a stranger entering their granddaughter's life. The ghost of her late husband remains a gentle presence in our lives, honored rather than feared. Sylvia made the profound decision to remove her first wedding band, though I assured her this wasn't necessary. When I mentioned that she had 2 hands if we were to marry, she found her own perfect solution, wearing her first ring as a necklace, close to her heart, while my engagement ring now graces her finger. It's a beautiful testament to how love can expand rather than diminish, how the heart has an infinite capacity for caring. Our engagement wasn't marked by grand gestures or public spectacles, but the tears, hugs, and kisses we shared in that intimate moment carried all the weight of our journey together. Every day, I'm struck by how fortunate we are to have found this second chance at happiness, how the worst moments of our lives somehow led us to this unexpected joy. Looking back on that first post, written in such uncertainty and fear, I'm amazed by how far we've come. What seemed like an impossible dream has transformed into a reality more beautiful than I could have imagined. Our love story may not be conventional, but it's ours, built on a foundation of shared grief, healing, understanding, and an unwavering commitment to choosing happiness despite the odds. Every morning, I wake up grateful for this life we've created together. In the quiet moments, watching Sylvia with our children, or sharing simple pleasures like our weekly Scrabble nights, I'm reminded that sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about perfect beginnings, but about hearts brave enough to try again, to build something beautiful from the ashes of past pain. We're proof that second chances don't just heal, they can lead to something even more precious than what was lost.